place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just what I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just what I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. 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 I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here.
All the paraphernalia. So good morning.
Good morning.
As an affirmation for peace in the Middle East, excuse me, and in solidarity with our Muslim and Jewish brothers and sisters, all of us people of the book, we greet one another. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Peace be upon you.
And upon you peace.
Shalom alaikum.
Alaikum shalom.
I'm Reverend Vicki Elder, and it is my joy and honor to welcome you to Unity of Monterey Bay, a community co-created with love and intention. And whether you're here with us in person, which we're dwindling again due to the new COVID ups and downs, but what we know is whether we're here in person or joining virtually, we know that love knows no boundaries. We are one in spirit. And as we open to and embrace this new year, let us affirm together, thank you, God, for this most amazing day. Miracle follows miracle, and wonders never cease. Unity of Monterey Bay is an inclusive spiritual community committed to co-creating an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just, and compassionate human presence on this planet. We celebrate our oneness and honor the God of each of our understanding, affirming the innate good and divine essence within each and every individual. Would you please join me in our statement of faith? There is only one presence and one power in the universe, God the good, expressing as infinite God beyond us, intimate God beside us, inner God being us, divine love in action. And so it is. This morning, we pray in remembrance of Thich Nhat Hanh, who passed on January 22nd in Hue, Vietnam. He was 95 years old. I begin with his words. Take my hand. We will walk. We will only walk. We will enjoy our walk without thinking of arriving anywhere. Walk peacefully. Walk happily. Our walk is a peace walk. Our walk is a happiness walk. Then we learn that there is no peace walk, that peace is the walk, that there is no happiness walk, that happiness is the walk. We walk for ourselves. We walk for everyone, always hand in hand. Walk and touch peace every moment. Walk and touch happiness every moment. Each step brings a fresh breeze. Each step makes a flower bloom under our feet. Kiss the earth with your feet. Print on earth your love and happiness. Earth will be safe when we feel in us enough safety. And then Unity spiritual leader Kathy Zavada, who was a student of Thay's, shared this. He is now merged in an immensity of love and consciousness, free of the embodiment, continuing in the energy of who he is, ever blessing us all by his never-ending, ever continuing being. We honor him by breathing mindfully, being peace in this moment, and moving with awake awareness through our day and life. She concluded with her favorite gatha from Thay. Please join me. Is it up there? Just click. There we go. Waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live fully in each moment and to look at all being with eyes of compassion. We are so very grateful for this very, very great soul and all he has so generously given to awaken, bless, and uplift this world. May he live on in us as we breathe in and out, deep and slow, aware of this present moment, a wonderful moment. And so it is. So now we come to that time in our service where we bless our children. And we awaken that child within each of us. So as we all think about the kids that are here are already downstairs, but as we bring the children in our lives to our mind, our grandchildren, nieces and nephews, our own children, children in our neighborhood, children in our community, and children in our world, we join in our blessing. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you just the way you are.
This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
And now we again center ourselves and deepen this blissful interconnection with Spirit. Taking a deep breath in and letting it out with an audible sigh. Allowing all distractions to gently fade away as we invite the chime to call us into this sacred space within. We ring the chime 4 times to call in the 4 directions and remind us of our interconnection with all of creation and with the sacred circle of life. As we feel it resonate through our very beings, we follow its call into this now present moment within. Continuing to focus on our breath, with each inhale, we open our hearts and minds. We envision our breath reaching every cell of our being. And with each exhale, we see all barriers and obstacles dissolving into this divine flow. Again, as we inhale, we expand the spaciousness within us. We move beyond the limitations and boundaries of our bodies. And as we exhale, we ground ourselves deep within Mother Earth and into our oneness with the universe. Finally, we breathe our awareness into the highest expression of love, light, joy, and peace we can imagine as we experience a transforming wave of gratitude. And with a fullness of heart, we say yes to it all, embracing, claiming, and knowing the divine Christ Spirit expressing in, through, and as us. And with a final exhale, we say, thank you, God. Now fully centered and transformed by the power of Spirit, we enter into our daily lesson and meditation time with today's daily word.
And the word is, pray for others. I invite you to allow my words to be your words. I am praying for you. Just hearing the words, I am praying for you, helps me relax into the calm strength of a trusted friend's faith. Reassured, I feel my own faith growing stronger. My friend may be next to me or calling from far away. The power of prayer is undiminished by distance. Grateful for the gift of others' prayers for me, I welcome every opportunity to pray for anyone who asks. Having heard the prayer need, I let go of concern. In faith, I behold the Christ's presence within the one for whom I pray. Knowing the truth of another's wholeness, I release any thoughts of illness. I affirm divine wisdom, guiding important decisions and diverse strength, relieving all and any weakness. I feel the warmth of God's love, bringing peace and restoring hope to those I hold in prayer. And from the scriptures, we always give thanks to God for all of you and mention you in our prayers. Thessalonians 1:2. Recognizing the many paths to the sacred, we read from 3 sacred traditions on the subject of grace, God-given grace. From A Course in Miracles, I have no cause for fear, for you surround me, and in every need that I perceive, grace suffices. From Hinduism, grace is always present. You imagine it is something somewhere high in the sky, far away, and has to descend. In reality, it is inside you, in your heart, and the moment you merge the mind into its source, grace rushes forth, sprouting as from a spring from within you. Ramana Maharishi. From Sufism, just sit there right now. Don't do a single thing, just rest. For your separation from God is the hardest work in the world.
I rest in God, God rests in me. I rest in God.
morning.
Good morning.
When Vicki asked me if I wanted to give the talk today, my first reaction was no. I've been super busy at work, and those of you who've seen my prior slideshows know I put a lot of time into preparing them. But it occurred to me that I could talk about the work I've done with Miranda MacPherson without a lot of preparation. Now, first, let me tell you a little bit about Miranda. Her story is important because it's easy to get distracted by how young and beautiful she is. She's on the surface very beautiful, but she's also a teacher of great depth and substance and very deep presence. Miranda started having mystical experiences at an early age. She's a classically trained musician and singer. She had a brief career in television presenting in her native Australia, but then she received a call into spiritual service and moved to the UK. She founded an interfaith spiritual foundation dedicated to mystical traditions in London. She trained and ordained over 600 interfaith ministers and spiritual counselors. She was very active in the Course in Miracles community, and she published her first book, Boundless Love, in 2002. But in 2005, she had what she described as a seismic shift that changed the course of her life. Miranda was vaguely familiar with Ramana Maharshi, an Indian mystic whose cave is still a place of spiritual pilgrimage, even though he died in 1950. While in India, she visited his cave and sat in meditation for what she originally intended to be a brief time. She went into a very deep meditative state and received what she describes as a transmission. It said, be nothing, do nothing, get nothing, become nothing, seek for nothing, relinquish nothing, be as you are, rest in God. In the wake of this experience, Miranda felt something wanting to emerge, but the constraints of her life in London wouldn't allow it. So she left everything familiar and moved to the Bay Area and began to develop a body of teaching on grace and ego relaxation. Many of you know Dr. Rick Moss. I first met Miranda when Dr. Rick arranged for her to be a guest speaker at what was then Pacific Coast Church. I attended her workshop and bought her CDs and guided meditations and added them to my regular practice. But then in 2012, I went through a major life trauma, and I began to discover how powerful and transformative Miranda's teachings really were. Years before, I'd left a big law firm when I realized I didn't want the life of a partner. After unsuccessfully trying to work on my own and finally having to declare bankruptcy during the downturn, I got my dream job. But then, shortly after, I was laid off in a way that felt really unfair. My self-esteem was in shambles. I was broke. I was questioning whether I wanted to keep working as a lawyer, but I didn't have a clue of what else to do. At a spiritual retreat that summer, I boldly prayed for removal of all the obstacles that were keeping me from moving forward on my pathway in this lifetime. 8 days later, I was in the emergency room at CHOMP. I had a large kidney stone blocking my left ureter. It had caused a severe kidney infection. I later learned they didn't think I was going to survive. And oh, by the way, the CT scan showed I had a huge mass on my left ovary. I was admitted to CHOMP, where I spent 5 days, and my worst nightmare had come true. I had no job, no insurance, no savings, no credit. I was close to the edge, facing what was going to be a long healing journey if I recovered, and whatever the outcome, it meant huge medical bills, and maybe only for John. While I was in CHOMP, my mind just went poof. I lost the ability to think my way through anything. But somehow I knew deep down that my prayer had been answered, and so I just kept asking God to show me the way. And fortunately, the mass was benign, and the social safety net helped with the medical bills, and it gave me a year to focus on healing my mind and body. Now, I worked with a trauma therapist, and I went through a Course in Miracles with Dia Lynn. Some of you know her. But the biggest shifts came from the work I did with Miranda as I went through layers and layers of interrelated trauma by attending her retreats and monthly gatherings up in the Bay Area. And incorporating her practices into my regular life. When it came time to think about going back to work, fortunately my mind came back, but I really didn't want to go back to work. It felt like I was giving up on the spiritual path. Miranda said, "Molly, we can't just live in ashrams. Some of us have to be lawyers." She said, "The true path is learning how to be a portal for grace in the world." Vicki would call this the both-and approach. Now, as John can attest, I'm certainly not always a portal for grace in the world, but I do have moments when I'm able to loosen my grip and allow grace to flow. Miranda says one of the problems with spiritual practice is we are asked to surrender, but we don't always actually trust what we're asked to surrender to. One of the things that was most helpful while I was in Chomp was listening to Miranda's recorded meditation called Cultivating Trust. I would do it in bed with headphones on. It was like a lullaby. One of the lines from the meditation is, "There is a presence of love that holds your heart and soul." This continues to be helpful anytime I'm caught up in life lifing me and I have a hard time falling asleep. Miranda says trust is the muscle we need to allow a deeper intelligence to guide our path in life. The deeper our trust in the nourishing love of existence for itself, the more we can relax. Now, if any of this resonates with you, I encourage to look at Miranda's website. She offers a lot of resources like guided meditations and chants you can download, and many of them are free. You can also get information on how to work with her. She started offering virtual work long before the pandemic, and she's pretty good at it. This morning, I'm using excerpts from Miranda's newest book, The Way of Grace, published by Sounds True. Here's the copy I forgot to bring with me. It's also available as an audiobook. One of the benefits of the audiobook is you can relax your thinking mind and simply receive the teachings in Miranda's beautiful voice with its Australian accent. Now, one of the things Miranda realized was that most wisdom traditions vilify the ego. Some use the word ego annihilation. Others urge you to subdue the ego or just ignore it. These are traditional teachings, usually taught by men in monasteries, and many of them can be very harsh. Miranda points out that for a long time it was considered acceptable to beat your children. Fortunately, things have changed. Miranda developed what she called a feminine approach to ego relaxation. Now, the feminine approach is not just for women. It's a nurturing mother-sister quality that's helpful for the tender parts of all of us. Ego relaxation starts with the basic assertion that you are not a problem to be fixed. In her book, Miranda writes, read that slowly again. You are not a problem to be fixed. From chapter 4. Ego relaxation calls you to surrender the powerful urge to fix yourself, even by spiritual means. Learning to be as you are, as a relative human being in a process of growing, learning, and awakening, and as eternal, changeless being, you discover that there never has been anything wrong with you. You remain in and as part of the divine, where you have been all the time. You begin to feel the unchanging support that helps melt the dense forces of fear, control, judgment, and defensiveness. Now, here's what Miranda means by our ego. Our ego structure has two layers. One is what we consider ourselves to be, our personality. This basic ego structure is formed by the time we're 5 to 7 years old. We develop our fundamental beliefs on the way we are, the way other people are, the way the world is, and what we need to do to survive by the time we enter first grade. Miranda says the biggest problems in our world are the result of a bunch of 5-year-olds running things. Now, the second layer of our ego, sometimes called our superego, is the inner critic. It's the harsh judge of everything we have done or aspire to do. It usually has a list of greatest hits it trots out regularly. You're stupid. You're crazy. You'll never amount to anything. Don't forget the time you ... Miranda says the superego's defining feature is the word should, delivered by a tight, hard energy. It's a false authority, a bully. In metaphysical circles, it convinces us we're a spiritual failure if we develop an illness. Now, Vicki calls that spiritual malpractice. There's nothing inherently wrong with having an ego or a superego. We all do. We need an ego to learn how to survive and function in the world. But as Dr. Rick Moss says, EGO is an acronym for edging God out. When we're caught up in our ego, we lose touch with the other aspect of ourselves, which is our divine nature. There's a joke about this. A man's looking for his lost keys, and he finally resorts to praying and asking God to help him find them. When he sees a flash of light reflecting off the keys, he says, "Never mind, God, I found them." That's the EGO in action. Now, the problem with trying to suppress or ignore the ego is it fights back, and it can become more firmly entrenched than it was before. The superego can become particularly vicious, with its assertion that we're fundamentally flawed, and we need the threat of punishment to give up bad habits. In January, the superego's job is to point out all of the New Year's resolutions that we failed to keep or failed to make in the first place. So what can we do about our ego? Miranda teaches us to learn to let it relax. Because the ego was formed when we were very young, Miranda suggests we treat it like a tender, frightened 5-year-old. She's given her a name. She calls it Sweetie. Whenever Sweetie starts to act up, Miranda takes the time to ask Sweetie what's wrong, and then she listens patiently. Sweetie never fully goes away, but eventually with consistent practice, Sweetie stops acting out as much or as dramatically as she once did. There's another quick technique that Miranda teaches. It's about finding your feet. When you get all caught up in things, your mental energy tends to go up. And if you just remember, find your feet. You can rock your pelvis back and forth on the chair where you're sitting, or just wiggle your toes. And what that does is just helps bring your energy down so you can start to think clearly again. Now, the basic formal practice of ego relaxation is self-inquiry. This is the process of going in and through the difficult parts of ourselves instead of suppressing them and adding to the layers of suffering we hold in our bodies, hearts, and minds. Miranda uses specific questions in her workshops, retreats, and online courses, and there are some inquiries in her book that you can use for journaling. This is from Chapter 1, Surrender. We're not going to go through the full self-inquiry this morning, but I wanted to give you an example of some questions. What limits you from dropping deeper and letting yourself be? In an inquiry process, you would go for this for 10 minutes. What does this provide that you think you need? What's it like in body, heart, and mind if you let your direct experience be exactly what it is? Now, Miranda doesn't let us get away with simple answers. She encourages us to spend at least 10 minutes asking and re-asking the question so we can move from the surface layers to the depths where the real answers lie hidden and often buried. In the workshops and retreats, we work with a partner. In Miranda's virtual courses, you can actually talk directly her into the monitor. It's amazing. That really does work. The point is to release the grip, to just simply be with whatever arises and let it melt. Now, we want to be gentle with our ego, but we don't have to be gentle with our superego, that false authority and relentless inner critic. Miranda talks about this in Chapter 4, dropping the knife of judgment. And this includes self-judgment. When the superego starts going on and on about all your shortcomings, you can simply say, "Thanks for sharing." Another way is to do what Miranda calls changing the channel with devotional chanting of sacred mantras. Now, I confess, I used to be fairly skeptical about chanting foreign words I didn't understand. There's a lot of, the literal translation talks about bowing to various gods, and it made me kind of uncomfortable not to know what I was asking for. But I noticed after I started humming or singing a chant to consciously change the channel in my superego, chanting would often start to arise naturally before I even had a chance to think about it. It's like that song that gets stuck in your head, but in a good way. Miranda goes on to say that when we turn our attention to a name of God, there's a lot more going on than just singing. When we chant a chant that has been chanted by millions of devoted people before us, we open into realms of being that are not bounded by history, space, or time. The great beings understand this. Today we're mourning the passing of Thich Nhat Hanh. In 2016, he wrote this about his death. There is no beginning and no end. I will never die. There will be a dissolution of this body, but that does not mean my death. I will continue, always. That's why 55 years after his death, Miranda was able to receive a life-altering transmission from Ramana Maharshi that she's been able to bring into being in the world through her work. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to lead a brief meditation from her book, The Way of Grace, and then we'll go directly into a recording of one of Miranda's mantras so you can hear her voice. It's from her first CD, The Heart of Being. She has a new CD coming out soon. And I'm just so grateful that Miranda would invite John to join with her when she was in town, and so John is going to be joining with Miranda on the CD. After the meditation, when you hear the music start, just receive it. Miranda will sing alone at first, and then John will join her. He'll be playing an instrument called a shruti box. He's got it right here. Just so you're not surprised by the sound. And then he'll join along in singing the chant. Now, you can join in the chant if you want, or you can do what Miranda calls taking a sound bath. Just let the words and music flow over you. One of the most common chants in the world is Om Namah Shivaya. The literal translation of Om Namah Shivaya is I bow down to Shiva. The literal translation doesn't work for me, but it helps to understand Shiva not as a god per se, but as a name for the inner self, our divine nature, that God stuff that's the true essence of everything. Miranda's translation of Om Namah Shivaya is I bow to the absolute. Please dissolve my ignorance. Now, ignorance doesn't mean we're stupid. Ignorance means we forget that we have this divine nature. As you get ready to settle in for meditation, let me read a quote that's included in The Way of Grace. And by the way, the quotes that Linda read this morning are also included in Miranda's book. This was adopted from A Course in Miracles. Be still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is, all concepts you have learned about the world, all images you hold about yourself. Empty your mind of everything you think is true or false, good or bad. Hold on to nothing. Do not cling to one belief you learned before about anything. Just come with wholly empty hands unto God. And now this meditation is called Melting into Ego Relaxation. Get comfortable. You can let your eyes close if you choose. And turn your focus inward to the natural rise and fall of your breath. Consider each inhale a welcome. Receive the molecules of oxygen themselves as an unconditional gift from all plant life. Feel it welcoming you to unconditionally just be here, however you are, in this moment. Consider each exhale an invitation to let something melt. Without forcing anything, see what can melt. Perhaps the subtle tension in the muscles of your eyes, shoulders, neck, or belly. Perhaps the conversations you've had today the to-do lists, the unread emails can all melt away. In this moment, what if you could just be nothing, do nothing, get nothing, become nothing, seek for nothing, relinquish nothing? What's it like if you just be here as you are? What if right now you were already resting in God? Let go into the ocean of infinite grace. Just rest. Just be. If the grip of I have to arises, see who this I is. Greet it unconditionally with the welcoming in-breath and the melting out-breath. No need to reject anything that arises. Just see what can melt naturally with the compassionate allowing of your own breath. And then in the silence, see what else is here.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
And so it is. All I can say is it's hard to come back from that. Thank you, Molly. That was awesome. So.
Bear with me. I'll get there. We've come to the time in our service where we have a chance to be part of the flow of God's good in the world. We all know that prosperity is a state of mind that finds blessings in every situation and abundance in joyous generosity. We transform all appearances of fear or lack into faith-filled peace of mind by shifting our attention to thoughts of gratitude for the abundance of God's good in our lives. Well, I have a completely ridiculous but very important short story for you. those of you who know me know I have a bunch of grandchildren, and when they arrive after school and go through my house for snacks, I feel a little like I've been hit by a plague. There is nothing left. You know, they eat their way from one side of the house to the other. Are you ever selfish for absolutely no reasons, like kind of reactively stingy? Unfortunately, I have those moments, and I had the day before made homemade biscuits, and there were 2 left, and I was planning on serving them to Howard and to me for dinner, and I thought the kids are about to be here. So I took them and I slipped them behind some things on the counter where they wouldn't be seen. And the kids arrived, and the kids ate their way through the house, and then the kids left. And I went and started to prepare dinner, and I moved these 2 biscuits out, and I thought, 2 biscuits is not enough. 2 biscuits is not enough for dinner. I have to make something else. I thought, why did I protect these 2 biscuits? I was reactively, automatically stingy, and wanted to keep them for my own. I've been thinking about that ever since, you know? God's abundance is all around me, and often I'm blind to it. So I hope that's not true of you. So we are grateful to all of you for your online giving through our website, unityofmonterey.org, and through your mailed-in offerings, including those of you who have set up automatic giving with your banking institutions. Thank you. For those who are here in person, the baskets are still in the back of the church by the door for you to drop your offering as you leave this morning. And now, from this place of faith and gratitude, I invite you to join me in mindful intention in joining in our offertory blessing. I am an open channel for God's infinite good. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies everything I give and everything I receive. I am both blessed and a blessing. Thank you, God.
Finally I rest. Grace. Finally I rest. No more guessing where I'm going. Finally I trust that the wind knows where it's blowing. You created heaven and earth long before my birth. The entire universe keeps turning. You hold every child in your arms, like the sky full of stars, and they know who you are. I'm learning grace. I can feel it. Grace. I can feel it moving through my soul, promising you'll never let me go. Finally I see every moment has its reason, simply meant to be, like the turning of the season. You created all with your hands. I need not understand the invisible plan. You're writing everything, such infinite love, so much more than enough. It keeps lifting me up. I'm rising. Grace, I can feel it. Grace, can you feel it? Grace, my soul, promising you'll never let me go. Grace, I can feel it. Grace, can you feel it? Grace, going deeper.
So we want to thank our musicians, obviously our musicians right here, Denise and John, who bless us always, and also the musicians that created the music that we use today, Daniel Namod, Richard Burdick, Miranda MacPherson. And we're so grateful for all the musicians out there in the world that bless our lives and remind us. Music is one of the things for me that brings me back to my truth, that gets me out of my head and back into my heart. So we are grateful for all of you guys sharing your talents. And again, for Molly, that was an awesome lesson. Thank you. As noted in the weekly e-blast, the Leadership Council decided this last Sunday to postpone our annual Calling of the Circle meeting from next Sunday to March 6th. We're praying and holding a high watch that possibly by March 6th we'll be able to actually gather in person, which will make Calling the Circle meeting much more meaningful than doing it on Zoom. But no matter what happens with the COVID world, we will hold it on March 6th. If we have to do it by Zoom, we will attempt to do it hybrid if that's possible as well. So mark your calendars for March 6th. That's when we do our elections and sort of a state of the church and all of those kinds of things. And that's when, since we're a co-created church, that's when we ask for all of your input about what's going on and what you'd like to see more of, and ways that we could meet your needs in different ways, and also all the things that we're already involved in, like COPA and such. So it's a fun day normally. I like to do it in person. We usually follow it with food. I'm not sure that'll be possible, but we'll see. Seems like things are changing literally daily. So as we bring our service to a close, we're grateful that you have all joined us here, virtually or in person. And whether or not it's your first time or you're a regular, we hope you've made you feel at home within our Unity of Monterey Bay beloved community this morning, knowing that wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. And if it is your first time and you're here with us, be sure to pick up a pack of information at the back of the church. Our chaplains today are always holding a high watch for our community. Sue Rosowich texted me that she didn't choose someone, and I don't know if Larry is downstairs. Is Larry downstairs? I'm going to invite Larry to be our chaplain when he comes upstairs with the kids, so that may be a surprise, or maybe he's hearing it over the mic right now. But Larry Sanks will be our chaplain today. And so if you have prayer needs that you would like to see expanded, or prayer joys you'd like to see expanded in consciousness, Larry will be up here at the front, and you can ask him to pray with you. There are also prayer slips in all of the pews that you can write out if you'd rather do that, and the prayer box is right there on the corner as you go out, and our chaplains always pray over all the prayer requests, and then we send them to Silent Unity, so they're prayed for an additional 30 days after that. Of course, you can always call Silent Unity, which is available 24 hours a day, and you can call them, email them, text them. I don't know if you can tweet them, but you basically can get a hold of them in multiple ways. So it's that time that we now will make our circle and join in our prayer and peace song. It was fun when our circle was getting to actually go around the church again. We're back to sort of a smaller. Here we go. Did you hear my announcement, Larry? Sue wondered if you would be willing to be our chaplain this morning after the service. Is that right? All right. So, not surprised. Larry always says yes. So, as we, you can't see on the camera, but Martha was holding the space between that back part, and we know that there is no space because we're all connected, whether we're here in person or here virtually. In fact, we're connected through our circle of love with all beings and all creation. So as we hold our beloved planet in our hearts and minds, as we hold all the places in the world that are struggling, which seems to be the entire world these days, we just surrender and ask what is ours to do, and then listen. And so from that place of openness and willingness, we join in our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is